Let's get started right off the bat with Stephanie McMahon, the Chief Brand Officer of the WWE. I want to let you know that I understand that performance is part of what you do, right? That counts a lot. So 1 second, I'll be back. I'm going to do the interview with this over my shoulder. Is that okay? Or should I put it on the waist? Should I do it this way?
It's a little uncomfortable when you sit with it, I have to say.
It's extremely uncomfortable, and it's hard just to hold, but I'm going to do it for a little while, all right? So, Eben asked you about tickets being on sale for WrestleMania. One, does it just feel good to be selling tickets to an event again?
Absolutely. You know, it was a year ago when we actually had to pull the plug on WrestleMania at Raymond James Stadium. And not that we didn't do the show, we actually moved it to the Performance Center because, as you said, the show has to go on. And now, for the first time for WWE, we are going to be having a ticketed live event, not just any live event, but WrestleMania, our Super Bowl, our first time bringing fans back. And I think The Rock's expression of finally, you know, we are returning and bringing our fans back home where they belong. And yes, it feels so good.
Now, there was a little stop and start. Tickets were supposed to go on sale, then you pulled them back. I think that is so indicative. It's a perfect illustration of where we are as an industry right now. What came up? What was the difference between the we're ready, wait, now we're ready again? Can you just take us in that intervening 24, 48 hours as to what transpired?
Sure. It's just a lot of conversation and back and forth. You know, the health and safety of our fans, of our superstars, of everyone working in and around the event is really paramount. And we just wanted to take the extra time to really cross the T's and dot the I's to the best of our abilities to make sure we had the right plan in place. And of course, you know, working with our partners, the Tampa Bay Sports Authority, the Tampa Sports Commission, the mayor, you know, in Tampa, Jane Castor. So we're really just making sure that we're all working together to ensure the safest, most fun event possible.
I love to ask executives to take me inside the boardrooms. This is not a one-person operation, two-person. What is your daily preparation like for something like this? And I would assume you had contingency plan 1, 2, infinitum. It's impossible to know how many, because nobody knew where we would be, right?
That is correct. And it's a constantly evolving and iterating process as we are hopeful to return to, because, you know, WWE is a little bit different than the leagues because we are a live touring property. We tour all over the globe. We bring our show to our fans in a non-pandemic era. So we're hopeful to return to touring this summer. That's our plan. That's what we're working towards. We had that plan this past fall. So when you're talking about being inside the boardroom, yes, we are constantly working across all of our lines of business to figure out how to make this work. And we are so excited, again, with WrestleMania coming April 10th and 11th, 2 nights, which is also unusual. We did it last year during the pandemic, and now we're going to do it again this year.
Just fill us in. What are some of the protocols? It'll be about 25,000 people allowed in the stadium. We saw a similar number for the Super Bowl, including vaccinated healthcare workers. What is the level of comfort with people being distanced, masked? How will the seating be? How does that work? Just take me through sort of the iterations of what was thought about and what ultimately became the plan.
Absolutely. So, we were working with a variety of different organizations. We did have the benefit, of course, of the actual Super Bowl being ahead of us at Raymond James and sort of paving the way. Our capacity is similar at 25,000 roughly, but, the layout is different. The configurations are very different because we're allowed to have fans on the field, as it were, on the floor. But we do have our seating pods, the social distancing, as you mentioned. Masks are absolutely required. That's very strict. We will also be handing out the N95 masks as well for anyone who might have lost theirs, et cetera, or who show up without one. It is absolutely essential and critical. Temperature checks, health screenings, cashless concessions, mobile ticketing are all instituted. So it's as buttoned up as it can possibly be. And again, we want to ensure that the safest, most memorable experience possible.
What about the protocols for your athletes themselves?
Those have not changed. Our athletes are tested on a regular basis. Before every event, they're tested. We've had actually only about 1% positive rate during this whole entire time, because during COVID, again, WWE had the opportunity and the benefit and I guess the foresight. We never stopped producing our television shows. So again, in WWE, different than the leagues, we don't have a season, right? We're live every single week with all of our content, a minimum of 7 hours for our partners, NBCU and Fox, every single week. So we were live real time iterating with all of these procedures and protocols, pandemic level cleaning, testing of our talent, of our staff, of anyone who would enter the facility, before every single event. Masks have to be worn at all times. So we have, very strict protocols. And I think that's one of the reasons why we've had such a low percentage of positives.
But also, you managed to bring fans to the arena when they couldn't physically come to the arena. For folks who perhaps don't watch or don't know what you did, like Thunderdome was a way through technology to keep your fans connected to the live events.
Absolutely. So for a few months, when we first started, we're figuring things out. As I mentioned, we were at our performance center and production levels were certainly not where we needed them to be. And we were missing the most valuable part of our show, our fans. So ultimately, we partnered with the Famous Group, and we now have a residency in Tampa. And we have nearly 1,000 virtual fans every single night, partnered with the Famous Group. And we bring in 1,000 people. And they are live. They are a part of our show. There's about a 1.5 second delay on the audio, but that's, pretty much real time for the casual viewer. And it really did bring the spectacle back to WWE. We also were able to then invest in drone cameras and pyro and lasers and augmented reality and test and learn on different things that we were never quite able to do before, because you can't blow pyro off in the middle of people sitting in the stands. That just doesn't work. But we're so excited about everything that we've learned, and we're certainly going to be applying that into our move as we do ramp up live events again. What is that merging of the virtual and the physical worlds?
Tell me, what is that? What are some of the applications that you think will have staying power because you saw your fans liked it, or innovation allowed you to try something that perhaps pre-COVID you would not have done as quickly as you did?
I think certainly bringing fans into the stands who otherwise wouldn't have the opportunity. I'm not sure exactly how that's going to work just yet, but that is something that is, so valuable. And our fans love it. And they see themselves, on the screen as a part of the show too. So it's really a win-win for us. And I think that anytime we can bring people, virtual or physical, into our world, that's a win for us. Plus the technology. I mean, again, the pyro, we're not going to be able to do, because of live people in the audience. In certain places we can. And the lasers you have to pull back again, because, they can be blinding actually to those, they could cause damage to those sitting in the seats. So again, health and safety is paramount. Augmented reality will absolutely be using, and some of the other key learnings. But we're working with a number of different partners to identify those opportunities and really expand on them. And one thing about WWE is we are not afraid to test and to try. And I think that this place that we're all living in right now, I think fans and consumers are really understanding of that. And they actually want to be a part of it. They test something, let us give you feedback. We'll give you feedback real time through social media, through, surveys, through however you want to do it. But our fans are so vocal about what they love and what they don't like, and not vocal about what they don't care about. And that's important to listen to as well. I will say it also allowed us to have, we did a special for our partners in Sony India, and we wanted it to be as authentic as possible, featuring Indian talent. Of course, there were travel restrictions. So what we did is we brought 1,000 Indian only fans into the Thunderdome experience. So that was just like a really unique application of this technology for a global product like WWE.
You said WWE is not afraid to try things, and that's great. You certainly embraced digital, perhaps more than some other leagues. I'm asking now, because there's only a finite number of seats times tickets, the real ability to generate revenue these days perhaps is through scale and technology. So what have you learned from a monetization standpoint for some of these things that you've learned Have you found new ways to make money?
We have found that we need to be more aggressive, I think, with the virtual and digital technologies that are applied. Our e-commerce business, for example, completely offset the loss of live event ticket revenue during this past year, which is pretty remarkable. So
what did people buy?
What
did people buy? Were they buying? I'm curious of the data what did people buy? When did they buy it? What did you learn about the purchase habits of your consumers?
So we learned the value of our legends, for sure. That championship belt that you have over your shoulder, we rolled out unique legendary offerings. And we saw those numbers clearly skyrocket. I think people are hearkening for that connection, right? The nostalgia aspect of stars that made them feel a certain way when they were watching way back when, or wanting to relive that. I think the emotional connection is what people have been craving so much during this era. And if we can create products or storylines or characters that connect with them emotionally, that's when we're going to win.
You know, a memory that I have, and I don't know if I was 7 or 8, whatever it was, but Stony Brook University on Long Island, I was standing next to one of those metal barriers, and Big John Studd walked past me. Now, of course, I didn't understand the theater of it all at the time, but I will tell you, I was terrified. I didn't know if he was going to pick me up and slam me, but it's a memory I carry today, something I've told my son when I take him to Madison Square Garden to see some of your events. Of course, we have to buy the swag. He beats me up for about 2 weeks afterward. But what have you noticed from a generational standpoint? Fathers, sons, grandfathers, mothers, daughters. What do you see about the makeup and the demo of your business, especially across those generations, how those storylines are passed down?
Absolutely. Well, actually, more families watch WWE programming together than any major sports franchise, excluding, of course, the NFL, which is really remarkable in today's day and age, right? And that generational viewing is seen throughout our demos. So we have a very strong appeal. Over 70% of our audience is in between that sweet spot, that 18 to 49. But we also index highly. And of course, it depends on if you're looking at Nielsen or if you're looking at digital and social platforms. Digital and social tends to skew a lot younger. Linear tends to skew a little bit older. But at the end of the day, we do have families watching our product. And I think it's really important when you talk about key learnings. One of the biggest key learnings that WWE has had, and our official launch is actually tomorrow on Peacock, NBCU's streaming service Peacock. So NBCU has been a partner of WWE for over 30 years with Monday Night Raw. And now, of course, Monday Night Raw and NXT on Wednesdays. And you can look at that history and Saturday night's main event that my father, Vince McMahon, launched with Dick Ebersol. And it took place every other Saturday when Saturday Night Live wasn't live. And you look at how the products have evolved and grown, and not only the products, but also the distribution of those products. So during the pandemic, as viewing went more streaming, WWE launched our OTT service, our streaming network, the WWE Network, 7 years ago. Believe it or not, we were one of the first in the market. And what we've learned through this time, as all of the other big technology players are adapting and they're able to offer at scale, a great technology experience in addition to the content experience. And we are not a technology company. We are a content company. So we have now decided to make the big pivot to license all of the content that was on WWE Network, our streaming service, over to Peacock. And that launch happens officially tomorrow. And WrestleMania will be the first time that everything is exclusive to Peacock. So you talk about the boardroom and all of the executive conversations. There's so much happening between our teams, at every level across the board. And it is a really exciting time for both of us.
How many of the other leagues are looking at you, though? Because, the NBA had its League Pass, which I think was the first sort of OTT property. Nobody really thinks of it as that, but it really was OTT. The conversation these days is about that paradigm shift, linear TV, diminution of audience, everybody going to streaming. If you want to capture my 11-year-old, don't put it on TV. Put it on TikTok, put it on YouTube. That's all he watches. What about this paradigm shift? Do you feel you're better positioned than some of perhaps the established sports leagues because you were there so early, you've done your trial and error, and you know you have that demographic locked up already?
So I do think we are in a really good place. We have a history of being a first mover, particularly when you think all the way back to WrestleMania 1, right? And it was available on closed circuit television. And, my father's actually credited by some as pioneering the pay-per-view industry because he wanted to find a way to bring our product into our fans' homes. So you think about pay-per-view itself. Then you think about WWE Network when we launched 7 years ago and intentionally cannibalized our own pay-per-view business, a really big move based on research that our fans were 5 times more likely to consume online video. So we made a huge pivot in the space. And now here we are making the transition to Peacock. And to answer your question about digital and social, we've always been platform agnostic. So we do think linear is still incredibly important to reach certain demos, right? But also you have to be where your fans are. And you have to be where consumers are in general to be able to reach new fans and new audiences. So we started digital and social, almost at their inception. We were actually one of the first 100 content creators on YouTube when YouTube did that original deal. And we're now the 5th most viewed YouTube channel in the world. We're the 2nd most popular sports brand on TikTok behind the NBA. They have 12 million followers. We have 10, but they launched before us. So we're hot on their heels. And we trend on Twitter every week, I think, due to the live nature of our content, and of course, Facebook, etc. And actually 10 out of the top 15 most followed female athletes in the world are WWE superstars.
And I would say part of the secret sauce moving forward with that shift to digital is going to be, and you said the important word data, is that data capture. Mm-hmm. How have you ramped up not only the amount of data, but how you distill that data and utilize it in terms of monetization?
Absolutely. Well, through our e-commerce platform, of course, through the WWE Network and all of the subscriber data, we have, over 4 million different variables that we look at. What do people watch? When do they watch? For how long, etc. So that data set is really incredibly important. And not only that, but then you couple that with social media feedback. And there's, of course, a huge volume of social feedback. So you have to take out the key themes, that and extrapolate the important messaging from the key themes. And in addition to that, what we're missing so much is that live audience feedback, right? Because you can't discount the live audience reaction, the human interaction that you can have with live people and the opportunity to hear from them. Hear their cheers, hear their boos, hear whatever it is, in addition to, just what they buy with their wallet, because they vote with their wallet every time they make a purchase. So we utilize every data set that we possibly can.
What do your sponsors tell you throughout all this? Because as you admit, it's not the same, but you're doing the best you can. I know fans have patience. Do sponsors have patience as well? And by the way, I tell everybody, you may be one of our sponsors here, but I just really feel like having one of these right now, Stephanie.
Oh my God. Ray and Marty will be so happy.
Yeah, you didn't know about this, but they do satisfy. I've got a certain yearning right now. So, I take from this what you will. How are your sponsors reacting at a time of turmoil?
Scott, I did we pay you to do this? That is just
no.
Awesome.
I'm just hungry. I like to take care of my friend Stephanie. I'm just hungry right now. That's all. I could have chosen anything. I just felt like having this.
Well, I'm so glad. And Snickers is, our presenting sponsor for the 6th year in a row for WrestleMania.
Oh, you don't
done our best to over deliver for them. And when you consider that last year, right, we still produced WrestleMania, but it was from our performance center. But then you get not one, but 2 nights, right? One of the things as well that I think sets up WWE uniquely for our sponsors and partners, and where you've seen a shift in what brands really want to get the connection that they want to make, we have the ability to create custom content. We just did a digital series called Grit and Glory for GM, and it's this really unique platform, and it's an opportunity to see a different side of our superstars while showcasing a partner. And we could create that custom content, whether it's in programming or out of programming, our superstars. Different than the leagues, WWE owns all of the intellectual property. And of course, we work with our talent, but we have the ability to do so much more and not have so much red tape, right? You can work directly with WWE. And then, of course, the digital and social presence that I just mentioned, plus all of our community activations and partners. I mean, really, when you have the opportunity to align with WWE, we can bring a customized experience to our fans and partners, really unlike anyone else.
Speaking of unlike anyone else, there's my friend Shervin Mir Hashemi, the CEO of Legends. I don't know if you guys have worked together. And here comes Erwin Kishner from Herrick. They're going to lead our next panel. And Shervin and Erwin, I hope you guys brought a snack because I needed something there.
I have a Snickers bar, Scott, and I'm going to actually go endeavor on that very shortly, right after this interview.
Stephanie, we hope you guys crush it in Tampa, since we're doing the food and beverage there, so we're excited about that.
Oh, good. So I like that we have partners.
Thank you so much. And I'm sorry,
I can only
hear you, Scott.
Oh, okay. Well, Steph, thank you so much for joining us. I'm going to turn this over to Erwin and Sherwin because there's so much for people to learn from them as well. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Scott. Thank you, Stephanie.
Thank you so much.